I'm going to show you two different ways to stitch the orange peel blocks for the Stars in Flight quilt. I have my pieces cut out for this demonstration, so I have two of the background fabrics that we're going to use for the orange peel blocks. I have my template and I've already cut out the pieces that I need from the template. So for the first method, we're going to do the turned through applique, and you're going to need your main fabric that is going to sit on the top of your square, and you'll need a piece of iron-on interfacing. The second method we're going to use is the raw edge applique. So for this one, I have cut out just the centre of this leaf shape out of the fabric, and then that's all that you need along with your background fabric. So let's make a start. Let's start with the turned through applique. For this, you will need to have your two pieces together. With these two, we're going to lay the shiny side on top of the right side of the green fabric, and then we're going to stitch a 1/4 inch all the way around, so you're not leaving any sort of a gap at this point. You're just stitching your 1/4 inch seam allowance. There are my two pieces sewn together. So I have the interfacing with the glue side downwards on the right side of the fabric, and then, as I say, I've stitched the two pieces together. Now at this point, do not be tempted to get the iron onto this, because as your glue is on the top of your fabric, your interfacing will glue to your fabric, and you don't want that. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to turn it the right way round. We're going to put cut across in the middle of the interfacing side, just to be careful that you don't go through to the fabric. So if you've got some sharp pointed scissors, you could use those, or you could use a seam ripper. I'm going to use the seam ripper. So you need to separate the two and then pop your seam ripper into the interfacing. Be careful you don't go through to the fabric, because you'll have a hole in it then. And I'm just going to, not the sharpest of, let's try the scissors. That wasn't very sharp, that. So I'm just going to cut like that, and then I'm going to do it horizontally as well. Then once you've done that, just using your fingers first of all, we're just going to pull that fabric through the hole. Once you have more or less pulled it all through, I'm going to use a point turner just to be able to get into those corners and just smooth out the edges. Just be careful obviously when you're using this, because the interfacing is quite fragile, that you don't make any holes into anything. So I have my leaf shape stitched together, and you've got the shiny part of the interfacing on the outside, because that's what we're going to iron onto our background fabric. So don't iron it at this point. I mean, it would be nice to get all the creases out of the front, but if you iron it now, it's just going to glue to whatever surface you put it onto. So we don't want to do that. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half lengthways. You could either put a crease in by hand, or if you want to use an iron gently on it, you could do that. And then we're going to fold it the other way just to find that center point. and then using a pin, I'm just going to put the pin straight through the middle, making sure it doesn't get caught in any interfacing on the back, because you need that pin to be free. And then with the background fabric, we're going to find the middle of that as well. So I'll just fold it in half, put a crease in, and half again, just crease that again, and then placing your pin into the middle. For the orange peel blocks, they sit, the peel piece or the oval piece sits across the diagonal, so that's why you need to find your two centre pieces. So each point will more or less sit along that folded line on the diagonal. So once you're happy it's in the right place, I'm just going to pop a couple of pins in. Just to keep it there for the moment. And then I'm going to put the iron on, and I'm just going to iron that flat onto the background fabric. This is now ready for stitching. You could stitch it on by hand if you wanted to, or I'm going to use the machine and I'm just going to do a running stitch around the edge, or if you wanted to you could use a fancy stitch. It's entirely up to you. For my second orange peel block, I have put a piece of Bondaweb on the back of the petal piece, and then I've ironed it onto the square of background fabric. So that is now ready to be stitched on. So you could do a fancy stitch around the edge, like a satin stitch or a blanket stitch, which is what I'm going to do. Or you could do it as a raw edge applique, where you just stitch a straight stitch around the top of it and it just leaves these edges just free. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and then we can just have a quick look at that one. Here are my two finished orange peel blocks. So we've got the turned through block, and you can hopefully just about see that I've stitched a straight stitch all the way around the edge to secure it to the background fabric, and there you can see it on the reverse. So that's one method of doing the orange peel block. The second method I have chosen to do today is the raw edge applique. So I have used a blanket stitch to stitch mine on. This is on the sewing machine as well, and there you can see it on the reverse. So that's two different methods to do your orange peel block.